if the victim lives in, say, Daytona, Florida, where does the victim start? Like, where does the victim does the victim have to drive to Savannah, Georgia? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Bird Dog here at Dreaming on a Budget. Today is an awesome opportunity for us. We just hit over 1,700 subscribers on YouTube, and I have an amazing colleague and honestly just someone that I've looked up to for a long time, and that's why I reached out to him. Detective Anonymous, go ahead and say hey to everybody.
Good morning.
So, Detective Anonymous, give us a background for the folks who don't know you. How long have you been in law enforcement?
I've personally been in law enforcement 28 years myself. I grew up in law enforcement. My father was also a law enforcement agent. So
it's like father,
so
like
basically about 50 something years.
yeah, with the accumulated, you've been in it 50 something years because of your father. That's awesome. And
and I had a brother also that was law enforcement. So
okay, so it's a law enforcement family.
Correct.
I don't know if I could sit here with a straight face and ask my son to go into law enforcement today. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, detective, like, how long have you been a detective?
I've actually, most of my career, I've been 28 years, so probably 25 or 24 years of that.
Yeah, I figured with your expertise that you probably promoted within pretty quickly. Now, with me, like, I was always a basic traffic cop. I had field sobriety. I did a lot of DUIs, basic drugs, intervention, and things of that nature. But this is a wheelhouse that I'm not really used to, and so that's why I wanted to bring you on, because over the years, I'm sure you've worked a lot of fraudulent cases. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I would.
And it's amazing. I remember, when I was working at, with you guys at the same agency, I remember a lady coming in one day and we did a report on her, and I almost wanted to cry for her. She had 6 $500 scratch off Google Play or Apple Play cards, where a scammer in India or somewhere from a call center had basically asked, got her to pay the IRS through these little scratch offs. How has that been since, how has technology just changed the crimes that you guys see now?
Well, scammers, people taking advantage of folks, that is the crime. That's the crime of the future and the crime of the present. I mean, people used to go out and rob, and you still have robberies, but people basically rob. They rob people by scamming them now, especially our older people.
Especially elderly people. And even companies, even agencies, law enforcement agencies, they click on the wrong link and then they get hijacked. I think our agency at one point even experienced that.
Correct.
And that was insane. To give the audience a little overview is clicking on emails that you don't know or don't understand who they're coming from. That's called phishing. It starts with a PH. Yep, phishing. And it was insane. And I think they held our county at ransom, basically kidnapped our servers. That is just, it's wild, the level of technology today. And like you said, it's definitely a crime of the future. That's most definitely one today. Can you give us an overview of, like, so I remember working for an agency, and if I got a call to someone who had credit card fraud, like say someone stole their PIN number to their credit card and they scanned it, they swiped that card at multiple places, I would have to go get a police report at every single location. Can you maybe give me a level of why is that? Is it because the crime is occurring at every location, a separate crime?
Yes,
or like?
Well, it is, and you run into jurisdictional issues. I mean, they're trying to make some some headway and with things like that now, where the victim, a lot of times the victim can actually file one report in the jurisdiction that it occurred in, but
Correct.
that's not, it's still, the courts are not completely recognizing it all over. So you run into jurisdictional issues where if the crime was committed, let's say it was committed in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And then you had another crime that was committed in Savannah, Georgia. Well, you've got two different courts, you know, because there's two different jurisdictions that it occurred in. So,
and that was called venue, correct?
It's called venue.
Okay. So give the audience maybe a simple poor man's definition of what venue and jurisdiction is.
Venue is the location in which the crime occurred.
Okay, simple enough.
I mean, that's the jurisdiction is the basically the same thing, but where you run into jurisdiction is it in the city? Is it in the county? Is it a state issue? I mean,
who's given power over that area?
Who's given power? You know, a state agencies usually have jurisdiction over the whole state.
Correct.
They have a very much more broad area. That's why you have like the GBI. You know, a lot of times GBI are called in on crimes. They're able to go over the whole state. Their jurisdiction is all over. Georgia State Patrol, they can stop you anywhere in the state, any city, county. Then you've got, you know, your city jurisdiction. That's municipal officers.
Right.
The municipality is inside the city limits. So if the crime occurs, they have jurisdiction in the city. And you have your county deputies. They have jurisdiction over the whole county. I mean, whether it occurs in the city or county, and in certain situations, they have jurisdiction outside their county. I mean, right. But that's very rare. I mean, that'd be like in pursuit of somebody. If you're pursuing somebody and you're, you know, and you continue to keep them in sight, and you're, you know, you could go outside your jurisdiction if you say, or if you've seen a crime occur in another location, but the jurisdiction ultimately falls on the location, you know.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I know some agencies that will say that, yes, we are a county, we're a sheriff's office, but you can't work anything inside the city. And that was a policy, not a state. It's not in the Constitution for the state.
That's great. That's a policy.
That's a policy issue. But now that we've given a high level overview of venue and jurisdiction, so like let's go back to the same story. You know, crime occurs in Daytona, and the same crime, the crime attached to it happens. A crime attached to it happens in Savannah, Georgia. So if the victim lives in, say, Daytona, Florida, where does the victim start? Like, where does the victim does the victim have to drive to Savannah, Georgia to file? Like, they use their credit card, they got scammed, you know, whatever it may be. Like, how does someone in Daytona pursue somebody, and where do they start?
Normally you would start in your jurisdiction where you live at. I mean, you know, whether it be either the Daytona Police Department or the what's that, Volusia County?
Volusia County, okay, yeah. So it either be sheriff's office
or you know, that's where you would start at, and a lot of times, like I said, my opinion, you get a good investigator working your case, then he'll pretty much can handle it mostly for you, because you're the victim, and the, you know, it can be done from where you started. But if they don't, then you would have to go or get in contact with, not necessarily go to Savannah, but you can make a phone call, you know, and call them up and say, hey, listen, this is what I got going on. And most agencies will handle those calls, you know, and make the reports over the phone for you.
Yeah. So in my situation, I was scammed. I'd gotten a pallet of wholesale liquidated inventory. I had some MacBooks that I sold online, and I had someone was dumb enough to scam me in the state of Georgia, the state where I am still mandated, the state where I've been law enforcement for the last 6 years, you know. So it was funny to me, because they just didn't know what kind of hornet's nest they kicked over. And so, you know, what I started with is I went to my local sheriff's office, because at the time my business was established in the county, it was not in the city. Today, my business is established in the city, but we're an LLC. We have an EIN. We're officiated at the state treasury as a business. So I took my business and we went to my agency and filed my report. At the same time, I called to do a supplemental report at the agency where the scammer or suspect, or the allegations were being pointed to. And I got a supplemental from them as well. In my case, this scammer was trying to be funny. They actually submitted a Photoshop police report to eBay and used an old case number that's still tied to them, but it was a domestic related issue. And so they took the case number, had a good incident number, a good letterhead, and they just changed the report through Photoshop, and they submitted that to eBay. Well, eBay, doing due diligence and having good faith, expected that this was a real police report. And then when it came down to eBay reaching out and looking at the incident case number and stuff, it was a police report. It was verified. But what the issue was is it was a domestic case number, it wasn't an incident number related to fraud or a package not arriving. So I got scammed. So today, how often do you see online crimes? And let's say the last 10 years.
We see them every day.
See them every day. And so what kind of advice would you give to business owners that are starting to move online and starting to sell online? What could a business owner do to protect themselves? Is there anything we could do to protect ourselves?
Biggest thing you know is you have to watch what the audience, who you selling to. What you're selling. I mean, these scams, these scams, these folks are so good at what they do.
They really are.
It's really hard to tell you what to tell a business owner to look for. I mean, because I know just even normal people out there trying to sell something, a PlayStation you sell online and you sell it to the people, it gets delivered to them, and then they file something with PayPal saying, hey, I didn't ever receive my item. And then, they did receive the item, but then they open up a case with PayPal and try to get refunded their money. And then the person, that sold them the item, they're out of their money,
Yeah.
I mean,
these credit card chargebacks, people will file fraudulent insurance claims or credit card chargeback, where you say that I didn't do that. I didn't authorize that payment, but you did.
That's correct.
And I see that a lot in this business. And so it's crazy. I wanted to jump into, you kind of hit it on the head. I mean, let me ask you this. So how much does this cost the victim? A lot of people get scared. They say, look, I'm just going to let bygones be bygones. I'll write this off on my taxes. I don't want to get into the legal issues because I don't know where to start. I don't know how to cut warrants. I don't know how to do a warrant affidavit. I don't know. And if they live in an area where their agency's I want to say a piss poor agency, but I'm going to say it like this. If they live in an area where their agency's not the best, or maybe they're like where I worked at, where I worked at before, where there's only 4 or 5 officers, I was the detective, but I had no detective expertise, so it's like, what kind of benefit do I give to my citizens? Because maybe I didn't understand or don't know all the applications of the law. And so I guess what I'm trying to ask is people get victim, what can you tell victim, what can a victim expect in this situation? How much is it going to cost them to file a police report?
It ain't gonna cost them anything to file a police report.
Nothing. $0.
It's absolutely free. And
it may be time, which time can equate to money, so it may not be worth your time. You may have to appear in court. You may get subpoenaed to court to testify or give an evidentiary testimony to back your claims that you're stating. And that may be an inconvenience to you, but it's not going to cost you anything to go to court, because again, when the agency's doing the investigation at this point. So can a citizen do a warrant affidavit? How does that work?
A citizen can do a warrant affidavit. They have to, what they have to do is they have to file for what you call a probable cause hearing.
Probable cause hearing.
Go to the magistrate judge, and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is who I believe. But now they have to know who the offender is. They have to have addresses on the offender where they can be served with a notice to be in court.
Right.
And then the judge sets up a probable cause hearing. Now that may occur, and this is nothing to do with our judges. This is just to do with especially with post-COVID, recovering from post-COVID stuff. It may be 3 months. It may be 3 months out before they get a hearing. But they can do that, and then basically they are the prosecutor until it comes. If it's a felony, it goes into superior court, then the district attorney's office pick it up. If it's a misdemeanor, it'll go into the misdemeanor court, and then some people sue. They sue for their money back, and that's a civil court issue, which I can't really speak on because we don't work civil stuff. That's a whole different system there.
And some people have asked me, you could take this. So in my case, the dummy signed for the package with their real name, because now UPS does the back of the license. They scan the back of the license of the receiver. And so I've got the person's real information, and I've also got confirmation from the agency that they've used an alias before, and they use the alias that they've used in the past with me. They're not smart. Criminals are not smart. And so I know exactly who they are. I know exactly who signed for the package. I know exactly what card, I know everything, even the address. I know everything of where this person is. So I can go take a warrant affidavit out. Or I could decide to say, I don't want to go criminal. I want to go civil and do a small claims court. So as a victim, I have multiple opportunities to pursue this person, correct?
You do.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I may have some kind of a delay, detective, and I apologize for that.
You do have options, and I always tell folks, file a complaint. I mean, you don't have to, if you ain't got time to come down to the sheriff's office, you got to phone call 911. A deputy, a police officer that's in the city, they come around there to your workplace. I mean, if you want them to, if you don't want your folks in your business, I mean,
there you go.
But the deputy will come to you. I mean, you don't have to come to the sheriff's office. You don't have to. A lot of times they'll do it right over the telephone. I mean, I have myself done reports for folks right over the telephone.
I have too.
I wind up being the investigator who handles the case too. And then, it ain't me going to the officer trying to say, well, exactly what did they say to you? Right. Because I already have it. Yeah. But a good agency makes their officers available, and our officers are available. I mean, I don't know of any of them that's never.
I appreciate you saying that, because I was about to say you nailed it on the head. I have worked for agencies where they've stated, I've heard people say my agency will not do a report by phone. I've heard of victims reaching out to the venue of where the crime committed, and the agency of that venue said that they do not do reports by phone. And that's BS. That's laziness. It's nothing to get a phone number. It's nothing to get a case number off of your radio. It's nothing to build up a supplemental or report. It's just laziness. And we can agree that there's still a lot of great cops out there. A lot of great cops. There's still a lot of great agencies. People don't quit. I tell you, people don't quit a good agency. They quit bad management,
Exactly right.
And so, but I want to dive into this. Okay, well, let me ask you this then, Detective Anonymous. Say if eBay was to, or insurance was to pay me my $1,000, at that point, if eBay paid me my insurance, I'm no longer the victim. eBay takes the victim. So how is that? Why is that?
Because at that point, eBay's out the money. You're no longer out any money. You're no longer out your product because you have been compensated. So at that point, eBay becomes or the credit card companies, whoever it may be, they become the victims. Now, a lot of times they won't pursue anything further. We contact them, especially if we're working something and helping you with it. And eBay, you know, they say, well, we're going to make it right with our customer. A lot of times it's not worth it to them, I guess, to pursue it, which, you know,
I'm sure you're about to say the same thing I feel. Go ahead with it.
Yeah. Well, that's them. If they don't want to pursue it, then that's, I think, we pay, they get their money back from us as the consumer, because you're going to pay interest rates. You know, you're going to pay for it.
Fees and stuff.
It's just cheaper for them not to.
And it becomes a tax write-off for them as well. The issue of it is it creates a cesspool. I don't know how to put it. It creates an atmosphere where scammers know that they can continue to do these things. And that's where the issue comes in, is eBay doesn't want to spend hours, even though they have the money and the time to create a department who goes after these folks. And yeah, they can say they have a fraud department. Yeah, they have seller protection, buyer protection. They have all of these departments, but it really seems like they just write it off. They just write it off and don't care. And in my case, now, they did not compensate me. And in my case, I did have insurance through UPS, but because they kept telling me they were going to compensate me, I didn't go through UPS fast enough. You have a time frame on that insurance window. And so I'm out completely, you know, I mean, other than a tax write-off and other than just chalking it up to business is business. But, you know, I want to turn over to some questions that we've gotten. You know, some questions. I can't remember who said this. If you're watching this video, is it automatically a felony because it crosses state lines? That was a question I've gotten, and I don't know. I've never had to deal with that.
It's felonies, and really it depends on the state.
Right.
Now, just because it crosses a state line into Georgia, Georgia is not in the scamming area. There's an amount of money that has to be, I think it's greater than $1,500 makes it a felony now. It used to be more than 500, but they went up to $1,500 now. So anything less than 1,500 is a misdemeanor. Anything more than 1,500 is unless it involves firearms or something to that nature. A firearms automatic felony, you know, but
and then like grocery items, I'm assuming grocery items less than 500 is still a misdemeanor. Over 500 in grocery items, is that a felony now, or is it just $1,500 all around?
Well, it's $1,500. It's $1,500 is the all around. I mean, it's any crime. It's got to be $1,500 or more to make it a felony.
Yeah, so I've been out now 2 years.
Unless it involves firearms, you know.
Okay. Wow. So that's really given some leniency to allowing these crimes.
That's correct.
That's pretty crazy. You know.
But now there are, and without sitting here just going through, you know, we have a criminal code book that we go by, and without just looking at the criminal code book, I mean, there's things that involve credit cards and fraudulent stuff that can be less than that makes it a felony. But you know, it's just short of getting that book out and reading for about 30 or 45 minutes to tell you. I mean, you know,
and just to give the audience an idea. Yeah, I was going to say it's not the easiest thing to read, and I just want to give the audience an understanding. I don't have my OCGA book near me. I should have pulled it out, but it's about this thick, and the font inside of it's about this. I mean, it's super small font. There's a lot in a page, and let me.
There's over 2,000. There's about 2,000 pages, and the font is very, very small.
Let me jump on to social media real quick. I did ask some questions this morning. I asked, you know, what the audience would want to know if they were to have this opportunity in front of a detective to ask. Let's see if anybody reached out. All right, I guess I didn't post it early enough. I don't have any questions as far as that goes. No, so let's just recap. You kind of hit it on the head, So if someone was to steal my debit card and they went to, we'll say, Waycross, Georgia, and they swiped it there, and then they went to Atlanta, Georgia, and swiped it there. If they went in Waycross and they swiped it at multiple locations, every one of those locations, a crime is being committed. So therefore, a separate incident number would be done for every one of those locations. And I assume that's also because some of those locations may reimburse you, some of them may not. There may be like some path. So every incident, every location is a separate crime to multiple victims, not just me. I'm not just the only victim in this. The other stores are victims in this.
That's correct. And just a few little things. I mean, emails. That's a big thing. I mean, if you pay very close attention to your emails when you're opening stuff up, if you don't know them, don't open them. I mean, these scammers, they may be 2 or 3 different scammers, or they all may be the same person using different email addresses.
A Nigerian prince wants to give you $1 million, but he needs your bank account number.
Yeah. That's not nothing's free. Nothing's free.
There you go. Amazon, you had a $5,000 order through Amazon. If you don't agree with this, click this link.
That's correct. And they and everything they say, I mean, everything's a lie. Everything they say is a lie. They tell you, send us $500. Now we need 300 more. We got a guy coming to Waycross. I mean, just a funny story. I had one call me on my work cell phone to tell me I had won a Mercedes. And I told him, man, that's great. I would love it. I said, but I had to go through all these steps. And I said, well, tell you what, just bring it down to, and I give them the address, such and such. And it's the address to the department. And we played this game. And then the guy played, he started playing the Bible, a Bible thing, I said, well, thank the Lord. I really needed a new car. He says, well, the Lord is good to you. And then he went on, and by the end of it, he was cussing. He was cussing me out. And
he's mad at you for wasting his time.
A lot of things. I said, well, man, I thought you was a Christian man and she believed in the good Lord. But I said, all these things you're saying sure is not very Christian. I said, I just want you to bring the car down to such and such, and I'll give you your money.
Yeah.
So, nothing, if it seems too good to be true, I mean, I see this a lot. You get on Marketplace on Facebook. Now, there's a lot of good. Marketplace is a good thing. I bought stuff on Marketplace.
I love it. I sell on Marketplace. I make a lot of money on it.
You get on Marketplace and you see a Kubota tractor that's been kept in the shelter its whole life, and it's got a front end loader and it's a 4-wheel drive, and they say they don't want $1,200 for it. That's a clue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people don't give things away, especially nowadays, and things as high as things are right now. Vehicles, you look on there and you see a 2010 Ford F-150 pickup truck for $3,000.
No rust. It's garage kept. I've got the title in hand. All you got to do is pay me $3,000
and send it online to me.
Send it online to me,
and we'll ship it to you.
We'll ship it to you.
Those are all clues. I mean, nothing's. I just keep going right on past stuff like that. Don't even stop.
No,
because
that's great. That's great advice. That's great advice, because whoever's watching this, I have an audience between 25 and 70, 80, 90-year-old folks who are watching this video. So this is great advice to them, and hopefully they're picking something up from this. I want to ask this too, though. Say you do buy something from Marketplace and it's stolen. Or say you go to a pawn shop and you buy something and it's stolen, and you get reached out by at that point, you're in possession of a stolen item, even if you paid for it. Break that down to me.
We've run into that, especially with the pawn shops. And what happens is, let's just use a firearm, for example. Okay. People, a lot of times, I mean, we preach. Every firearm I have the serial numbers to. I have those serial numbers stored in 3 locations, 3 different locations. The reason I do that, and anything expensive I have that has a serial number on it, I have those serial numbers. And the reason for that is the only thing that makes your firearm any different than the 5 million other firearms that's been stolen out there is that number. That number that's stamped on that firearm called the serial number.
Yeah.
When you carry that firearm down to the pawn shop, they run that serial number. Comes back, it's not stolen. Well, let's say that you're a thief and you stole that gun from whoever's house.
Right.
Well, you carry it down there and you sign a paper that says, hey, this is my gun. Well, it ain't your gun. You don't care. You know, and they say, well, I'll give you $75 for it. Well, you know, that's $75 that you don't go buy some dope with, or $75 it ain't yours. It ain't yours anyway. It doesn't matter. You're not coming back to get it. No. So you don't care whatever they pawn it to you for. You're not coming back.
Right.
So then they sell the gun. Well, 3 months down the road, you realize that your gun's missing.
Yep.
And somebody went into your house, went into your vehicle, stole your gun. You go find your serial number, you file a police report. Well, for whatever reason, you went in, your buddy went in and bought a gun, and we stopped him on a traffic stop. We run the gun because that's what we're going to do. I mean, you can have a gun. It's not illegal to have a gun, but we're going to check the guns, you know. Ain't nothing wrong with it. We're going to give you back and we said you're going to be on your way, you know, but unless you're selling dope and we stop you for a dope call or something. But let's just say, you know, you ain't done, you just got caught up in a traffic stop. Right. We run the gun, it come up stolen. Well, right now you're in possession of stolen property. Well, let's just say, well, you kept your receipt from the pawn shop.
Let's hope you kept your receipt. Let's hope you did, because if not, you are the. Go ahead.
You're gonna have to. Well, and that's where we're going with this. So you got your receipt.
Yeah.
So that shows that, well, you did go buy the gun.
Right.
And I tell you, I said, well, you know, I hate to tell you, but this thing's stolen. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the gun. You can file a report. We're gonna go deal with after you file a report, we're gonna go deal with the pawn shop, because the pawn shop, you know, and usually what's gonna happen is the pawn shop's gonna give you your money back. Hopefully. Well, the pawn shop's gonna be out of money. Right. So we tell them, say, you know, well, you trying to do the right thing. We're going to help you out here. So we're going to do a theft by deception, or a theft by deception charge, because they sold you a gun that they didn't legally own. We're going to follow that track. We're going to track that gun back to the last person that you know, that was legitimately buying and selling, you know. I mean, once you get back, eventually you're going to get back to the person who brought the gun in, and they're not going to be able to explain why they had the gun, or they're not going to tell you, and they're going to come to jail for, you know, at the very least, theft by receiving. If we can't prove they stole it, we'll still be able to prove they received it, and then they carried it down and sold it to somebody else. You know? Right. So that's what happens when you get into those situations where you get caught up with a piece of stolen property. As long as you can show us how you got it and you bought it honestly, we don't want you going to jail for something that you honestly didn't know was stolen. You thought you was right. But that also falls back into, you know, somebody says you something real cheap, something's probably wrong.
Yeah, there's some common sense that comes into it. I know 1622. This is a official code of Georgia, but it says ignorance of the law is not an excuse, and that's me paraphrasing it. And that's so correct. A lot of people will, you know, and you have to play this. You have to play the devil advocate when you're on these marketplaces, or Craigslist is another one. When you're buying these generators, or these ACs, or these firearms, you've got to do some due diligence. Like Detective Anonymous says, if it's too good to be true, guys and gals, it is too good to be true. I know it seems like a deal, and you feel like, you know, just do some due diligence. Reach out to that buyer, ask questions. Go look at the item, see what it looks like. Don't ever pay anything online. Don't use PayPal to do transactions of folks that you don't know. Don't use Cash App. That's another one. Cash App and Zelle is becoming a thing where people are just throwing money back and forth on Cash App and Zelle. And in my area, in my new world of business, anything that's a transaction that once you hit the $600 mark moving forward, legislation's made it where we're now $600. Once you hit the $600 mark moving forward, everything gets reported to the IRS. Now you got to explain, like if you're renting a house out and you're thinking you're doing it through Cash App and you're paying $400, you're renting it to someone for $400 a month. The IRS now knows you're getting the 400, you're getting this money in. And so like, there's so much that's going on. And so Detective No, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and kind of giving a high level overview and just breaking down to these viewers that you're not helpless, that it costs you absolutely nothing. I mean, if you go through the civil court and you want to do a civil court, you want to do a small claims court, you want to sue somebody, yeah, that may cost you some money. It may cost you $20 for the form based on your agency. It could be more, but and you're going to have legal fees because of civil court. But criminally, we're not charging you as law enforcement officers. We're not charging victims to file a crime against us. Like that's like we're there to help. Like we want to, if it's a good enough agency, a good enough officer will do everything he can based on the situation to make sure that you're taken care of. And if it's a good officer, a good agency, we really hold that near and dear to our hearts. And we want to make sure that no matter what your age or background is, that you're still a victim, that you still had a crime committed upon you. And so like I had a good buddy of mine that had some t-shirts that were frauded, or that were basically being scammed. That he's in the vintage t-shirt business, and we're talking like Detective, we're talking these shirts can sell up to 15,000. This is old vintage Nirvana band tees, Grateful Dead, Kiss, Guns N' Roses, like really cool band tees that you would only be able to get at the concerts themselves. And so some of these things sell for ridiculous amounts. Well, there was a college kid in California that thought that he could commit white collar crime. I mean, that's what I'm gonna call it, white collar crime, because what he was doing was he was going around online buying all these shirts up and then filing through eBay that he didn't receive the item, or that the item received not as described. Like he was just scamming the heck out of all of these really reputable vintage dealers. And it's just insane. So what I want to say though is thank you so much.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You disappeared for a minute.
I got you. What I want to
throw a couple things in to Chance. Another area that these scammers are really targeting people. I mean, it's even pretty much I don't know, could be a younger group of folks. I don't play them a lot, but these electronic games that you have on your phones now, you see headers running across them all the time, and they got ads in them. I mean, where you'll play now I do play a lot of word games, and in word games, you'll go through your puzzles, and then before it goes to the next puzzle, it throws you through a couple of ads, but then there'll also be these little headers going across the screen, and them things they're email headers that they're cloaking locations.
Yes, IP addresses.
These scammers, I mean, they're using all kind of, they call it the Nigerian style is what they call it. I mean, because a lot of these scams are coming out of mythology groups out of Nigeria who teach internet fraud.
Wow.
They're teaching internet scams. They're teaching folks how to scam on the internet. And they, and these headers, I think I read sometime back, they travel from server to server across cyberspace. I mean, and every time an email gets forwarded to the next server, it goes, it's what they call it's a hop.
Okay.
And each one of these hops, they're stamped. It's like a post office, like the post office sending mail out, it's stamped. And if you think about how a letter travels from post office to post office, just think about how it travels from Africa to Seattle, or from the United States to Australia, or so you need you look at those headers real good, and you'll see things in them headers. You know, like I said, I don't click on any ads. I don't click on that stuff where win money for playing games.
The bingo cash or the
bingo cash and different stuff, or it says, whenever you play any of these other electronic games, you pay them, they give you so much money towards. They may be real. Yeah. I don't take the chance because I don't want to be scammed.
Some people don't know this as well. In some states, online gambling is still gambling. If you don't have a casino in your state, and you're clicking it along on these websites, you never know what you're clicking on, for one, like Detective Anonymous said. But two, you may be committing a crime. And again, some states, almost every state says this: ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And that's not a catch-all. That's just simply saying that if you feel like you're doing something wrong, you probably are.
And part of the deal with these, like what I was talking about, the emails, if you do, most people these days, me included, I do a lot of my business is done online. I very rarely go into the banks anymore. I do not go to telephone companies. Most of all my stuff is done online. I pay my bills online.
Right.
Which is what most people do these days.
It's almost how they require you to do it now.
Well, when you work at a place that won't even give you a paper paycheck anymore, if you don't have a bank account, they'll issue you a debit card and put your pay on a debit card, and you can go to the bank and cash it somewhere. Some bank, they'll cash it for you. But I say the reason that's so important in talking about emails is, in this email, they're able to get into your system and get your banking information. I mean, because you list your credit cards, you list your debit cards. I mean, you use PayPal. I like to use PayPal because I don't want them having my banking info. I don't want anybody getting my banking information. So what they get's the PayPal information. Mm-hmm. And, so they can't steal a whole lot from PayPal because I don't put money in the PayPal account. I just, I got it attached to other things, but they get your information, and then they can go in there and they get you card numbers.
Right.
You were speaking earlier about, when we first started talking, you was talking about how it hurt you so bad when the lady came in with the
play cards.
The cards.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times. I mean, I worked a case over in one of the small towns here. A lady and her husband was a preacher, and they scammed her for about $6,000 on iTunes cards. Told her she had to go get $500. Let's see, I think it was $500 iTunes cards.
Yep.
And call them and give them the number. Well, listen, when you do that, nobody asked you, no legitimate company, the RS especially, because if the RS wants their money, they're going to go into your account and get your money.
They're going to pluck your money.
They're going to get in contact with you, and they're going to do it legitimately. They're not going to be doing scamming,
Right.
But once you give them these numbers, most of these are Nigerian based. They are. But once you give them that number off that card, the truth is there's not a whole lot that law enforcement can do then, because they've cashed that card somewhere. They've done got that money. They've done transferred that money probably 10 times before we've even got to you to talk. And, and there's just no way to, the iTunes and these companies don't make a way to trace those particular kind of cards. Credit cards, that's specific to you. So you can, credit cards are a little bit easier to trace down and see where stuff's going. But with those gift cards, and it's not just iTunes, it's any Google, iTunes, any of those stores, any of those locations that you can buy gift cards to, or those little cards. And once you give them that number, it's pretty much done. I mean, there's not a lot we can do. It breaks, it would break your heart.
It does.
I felt very sorry for the lady. I mean, she was an elderly lady, and they targeted her. It was an RS scam, and convinced her that the RS was going to send the
sheriff's office
to arrest them.
Yeah,
and they assured her that the sheriff himself was on the way.
Yep.
You know, and I even spoke to these people I even spoke to these folks on the phone myself, and I assured them that the sheriff would not be arresting them. That I would sure like to talk to them though, because the sheriff might be arresting them.
Yeah.
But you know, elderly people, bless their hearts, they live all their life trying to do right, save them money, try to live, and they're just surviving when we get older.
Yeah.
On what we make, and then people like just take advantage of them, and they legitimately feel like that they owe this money because they don't know.
Well, they don't want to lose their house. You know, they don't want to lose their property. They don't, you know, they're living on pensions. So whatever they have saved up, that may be their life savings, you know, and they're living $700 or $800 a month for SSI, because now we know SSI ain't nothing anymore.
That's
you know?
Right.
And so you used to be taught that if you worked all of your life, you put money in you paid your taxes and everything, SSI would take care of you. And that's just not the case anymore.
It's not the case anymore.
And then your property tax may be just as much as your dang SSI. And it just breaks your heart. And honestly, Detective, I think we're talking about the same case. I think we're talking about the same case.
We probably are.
It broke my heart to hear that woman tell me that. And I took pictures of all the cards, and she had receipts, and I'm like, you know, and you want to be like, you know, how is this not common sense? But you don't understand how convincing these people are on the phone. I know we've pivoted from a different type of scam, but these people are really convincing when they're telling you that, hey, there's a warrant being cut for your arrest right now, and the sheriff's office is going to arrest you, but we're going to give you an opportunity to make this right. I need you to pay us today. And then that's a very convincing argument to someone who's lived their whole life abiding by the law, who's trying everything they can to do right, and who has not been aware or made aware of these types of scams. And I think awareness is the biggest thing.
It is, and scamming. I mean, whether it be the online scams or whether it be them calling you on the telephone or sending emails to you. I mean, you know, saying, hey, you know, I mean, you even get them where they call claiming to be. I had one a little bit back. My boss called me in about asked me to call a certain person here in the county and I knew the person, but they had called him at home because somebody had called identifying themselves as me, that they were going to that they had missed court, and warrant had been issued for failure to appear.
Yeah,
but if they paid X amount of dollars and sent it to them, that warrant would be taken care of, you know. And I had to call the gentleman and talk to him and let him know, hey, listen, you know me. I said, if you'd had a warrant on you, I'd have called and asked you what was going on and told you need to get up here and get it took care of, because, you know, or I would have come and arrested you. I would not have. The likelihood is if they had a warrant on them, we would just go arrest them. You know, we're not going to call and tell you if you send us. We're not in the business. That's we don't handle money. You know, that's why I try to tell folks, just, you know, with that particular situation, I don't even know fine amounts. I couldn't tell you how much it cost you to run a stop sign.
Right.
You know, as far as what the fine amount is, because if I make a traffic stop, I'm not looking to see, well, what's going to make Coffee County the most money or the county the most money.
Right.
You know, or Ben Hill County or Irwin County or Duval County or any other county. I mean, I'm not in that business to see what's going to make them the most money.
Right.
I'm in the business you know, if you committed an infraction, that's what I'm going to write the citation for. If it's deserving of the citation, you know.
We want to keep the general public safe, and we want to deter crimes from being committed on the roadway, and not just the roadway, in general. And so,
in general,
some agencies will allow the officers to know a price sheet that way that they could put that on the ticket. But honestly, I think there's a big confrontation that gets held on the side of the road when an officer knows when they're given an $800 or $900 ticket. And when that person looks down, it also creates an escalation of force. So I'm partial on whether or not some agencies should even allow their officers to know what the fee is, because then it can become, some people wear their pride on their shoulder. A lot of these agencies are hiring kids straight out of high school with no life experience, and that's a conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
But and Detective, you've been in the industry and the business long enough to know that our at heart is to protect the citizens of our counties and our cities and our state, and just to really be there as a helping shoulder, not to put people in jail.
And that's what we tell folks, Chase. I hated traffic. I hated working traffic. So that's why I work to get away from traffic. I wasn't a traffic cop. I didn't like working traffic.
Yeah.
And that was just me. I just didn't like traffic.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you could ask somebody, and again, I'm getting off the subject just a little bit, but
you're good. You're fine.
I most times I ask people, I said, what do you, especially a victim or anybody else I may deal with, I go talk with them. I said, what do you think my job as a detective is? Yeah. Well, lock people up, put people in jail. Well, no, that's not my job. My job as a detective, what I do as a detective is I try to get to the truth. Right. Whatever the truth is, sometimes the truth keeps people from going to jail.
That's true.
A lot of times the truth keeps people from going to jail, but my job at the end of the day is not to put bodies in jail. It is to help my victims. Right. It is to deal, to find the truth to the best of my ability of what happened. That's my job as a detective, to find the truth, to seek the truth, not just to put a body in jail. I don't get paid to go lock somebody up just to lock them up. We don't get paid for that.
Right.
And that's why I just try to teach this to the guys that work around me, take care of the citizens. The citizens, that's what you swore and uphold. That's what you held your hand up and said you'd do. When you went into this business, this is not a lot. We don't make the money. This is not a money-making industry. And I said, you have to be able to, and what you do at night, what do you do today? You go home tonight, or I do. If I'm talking to you in a way that I shouldn't have, I'll go home tonight and it'll bother me, and I will find you, and me and you will have a conversation.
Right.
If I've had a bad day, I try not to.
Right.
I try to not make sure my bad day don't escalate on to you and what's going on with you. And, just say like in the scam, you got scammed. And I'm sitting here thinking, how did they let this happen? Anybody could have seen. Well, then I have to remember, I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Had I not been doing this, would I have seen this? Would I have seen it in a whole different light? Would I have been I could have been the one being scammed.
Right.
Because, and you have to remember that, and a good office, a good department. And I think we got a lot of good departments out there, and I think other departments will get there over time. It's just, but a good department, the officers they'll go over and beyond. And I think we have a lot here that will go over and beyond. Everywhere's got folks that are not 100%, but I think we got a lot of good.
Every profession.
And I think, but reaching out when you've been scammed. Is it embarrassing? Absolutely, it's embarrassing. And people will not, a lot of times they won't reach out to law enforcement because they're embarrassed that they got scammed.
They feel stupid. Well, they feel dumb, and they feel like.
My thing, I always say, well, you might save somebody else from being scammed.
Yes.
We can work on your case, but you've reached out to me. Now I can put it out to the public and say, hey, listen, this is what we got going on. This is the scam going on right now. Let's You know, you get a phone call like this, record that phone number. Now, most of the time, that phone number is going to change. You call that number right back. Actually, it ain't going to change. It is not. It is what they call a spoof number.
Yeah.
I have had them call my phone number from my phone. Yeah. I mean, you know, my phone number pops up there and saying I'm calling myself.
Yeah.
You know, it just the technology, I mean, out there, there's so much you can make these phones do. They call them smartphones. They're smart, all right. They're smart as the criminals that's out there making them work and using them to their advantage. And that's what they got. They got all day long to sit around and figure out. If they scam one person, they may make 500 phone calls, or they may make 20 phone calls.
Right.
And they get one call that they successfully scam that person. They've had a good day.
They've had a good day. I want to let you know this real quick, Detective. Like I brought into my business, my team, a kid named Emmy. His name is Emmanuel. He is from Lagos, Nigeria. He is a great graphic artist. He does a lot of designs for us, for our companies, our clientele. He does a phenomenal job. Here's the thing. Because Emmanuel has to fight through all of those scams. He has to fight through all of the filth that's coming out of his country, his continent, his area, that he doesn't get a lot of U.S. clients because of it. Because everybody, but mass majority of folks who want a logo made, who want graphics done, one, are just going to find somebody here in the U.S. to do it. But two, they're not going to trust sending money overseas to someone they don't know. So I brought him onto my team because I've vetted him out. I know exactly where he is. I've looked at his IP. I've done background on him. I know who he is. He's a great kid. I've had face videos with him, and God put him in our business has thrived so much because of Emmy. And I know he's watching this or will be watching this. And so I just want to shout that out. But it's one of those things where, you know, we brought him on as a 1099, a contract. He is an official employee of our business. And it's one of those things where in his currency, in a scammer's currency, especially like in India, $1 US is a very, very large amount of the conversion rate can be really high. And and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're living wealthy in their countries because the conversion rate's really high. That also means that the cost of living there is stupid ridiculous. And so, but like I wanted to give an opportunity to say that, don't be very cautious on how you do things. Go, like you could obviously come through a vendor like me to get a professional logo made. And I'm not trying to shout out or plug my business. I'm just simply saying, but not everybody in Africa, not everybody in India, not everybody in the world means bad. Okay. There's still there's so much greatness in this world that the evil sometimes just seems like the only thing we can see. But you have to be cautious. You have to use your head, and you can't really even say common sense anymore because common sense is just not common anymore. But if you feel like someone's reaching out to you or someone's trying to scam you online, you as a victim have tools and resources that you can use, and it's not always going to be. It may not always end the way you want it, like Detective Anonymous said earlier with the cards. Once those folks get those cards, they hop through so many servers and hop through so many web domains that they're just almost indefinitely they're gone. They're gone. They're just impossible. Even a cyber team from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations or the FBI are going to have really hard time pursuing that. And those crimes have to be millions of dollars for some people even to take the times and resources to allocate them. But Detective, look, I appreciate you so much for coming on here today. You've given so much of wealth of knowledge. I think if anything we have informed the general public. 90% of the folks who are watching my channel are resellers. They're acclimated to using online platforms like eBay, Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace. So they have a general level understanding of how to negotiate online and navigate online. But things do happen to us. Like me, I'm only 28. Things happen to me. So we're not all free. Online has created a marketplace for criminals like no other. And it's just one of those things where I don't want people to continue to say, oh, it's just not worth my time. No, you need to pursue it because it's for not just for you, it's for other folks. You know what I did, Detective? I actually called USPS and marked that address as a suspected scam address so that future forwarding packages to that address, because this was during the holidays, would be taken a little bit more serious. And what I was notified was is USPS and UPS got that notification from the fraud department through the Postal Service, and they started taking images of every package that was delivered. So if it wasn't for me not picking up the phone and talking to somebody, they would not have marked that location. And through the holidays, I can only imagine how many folks they scammed. But I want you, the crazy thing is an arrest is going to be made. So if you're watching this video, guys, this is just part one. I wanted to kind of give you a foundation. I wanted to bring Detective Anonymous in so he can kind of show you from experience, because I'm just some dumb traffic cop that worked, worked dope and worked DUIs, and that's all I cared for. But someone who's been in it for 25 years plus, but 25 years as a detective, sees this stuff all the time, and they can kind of give it to you a little bit better than I could. So, Detective, I'm going to stop recording now. I thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for coming on here. This has been awesome. This is going to let so many people know what they can. They're not going to feel useless now. They're going to know that something can be done, and that being a victim doesn't have to be embarrassing. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chase.